welcome to the latest edition of the Future Film Labs. We're excited for a very special session today. On a bit of a side note, it's our last session of the program, so a bit of a sigh from you guys all, please. Oh, come on. However, we've got something even more exciting coming up next month, which is the Future Film Festival. Perfect, you guys are good at this. What an amazing audience. But today's session is the Celluloid Recalibration. But the best way for me to say this is we're going to be discussing the future of the film industry and where it's heading from technology to distribution. So, we've got a few important announcements for today. So the first one, who wants a free lacy hard drive? Oh wow, no one wants a free hard drive. Make some noise. Free, did you hear that? Free, is this mic working? Look at that. But thankfully, due to our amazing sponsors, we've got free lacy hard drive. So you hear that, free. Usually we give out one, but it's the last one, so we're going to celebrate in style. And if you guys want to enter the competition, there's some information outside on the desk. And also, if you head to the Facebook, you can also enter there by commenting and tagging some of your friends. So without further ado, we're going to welcome our amazing panel for today. So make sure you guys make lots of noise for them. Let's just practice. Come on, a bit of noise. Amazing, cool. We've got an amazing panel. We've got Theodore Williams. Come on, noise. Tom Hodgson and Ntando Brown. So, hello everyone. First of all, thank you very much for leaving your houses on the weekend to come and share some very important insights with us. I'm just going to kick off with each of you introducing yourself, so go for it.
Hi, my name's Theodore Williams, but I just say Theo for short. I'm a filmmaker. I started off in post-production as an editor and then slowly moved my way into directing, and I've been doing that for the past 2 years, as well as staying in the post side of things as well. I work with Ntando Brown at Outsense Tuesday, which is a creative collective. He'll explain more about what that is, I'm sure. And yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm Tom Hodgson. I'm the head of community at a new social network called Vero, which is designed for artists and creators. I started my career working for Heyday Films, who produced Harry Potter, Gravity, Paddington, and then was creative director of J.K. Rowling's company Pottermore for a few years, and I'm a screenwriter.
With creatives as freelancers, and we work mostly on work on music content, music videos, documentaries, and advertising content as well. Yeah, that's us really.
Okay, amazing. So the topic of today's conversation is the future of film. So I feel like a great place to start is the past in terms of where you guys started in the industry and how you got to where you guys are now.
Wow. Starting in the industry about 8 years ago, it was a real turning point for everything. We were literally just making the transition from DV tapes to DSLRs and digital, and everything was a mess in the beginning. People didn't have any idea how it worked, what to do. There were all of these, codecs floating around. Nothing seemed to quite work with anything else. And now we're in a much nicer place with it, where you can just load anything you like into an editing software and just start cutting and playing around, and we're in a very free place. And I think that's had some interesting effects on actually moving further back, and now we're moving away from digital, and film's beginning to make a resurgence as well. But the past, I think we've just seen so much change over the past few years. Everything is constantly evolving, and I think we're seeing massive leaps in stuff like immersion technologies and stuff like that. So I think that's really interesting fields. But yeah, I think what we're beginning to see is a lot more access to cinematic equipment which anyone can get their hands on. Even things like grip gear and stuff like that, where before it was almost impossible to get like a jib crane or something like that in your project. You can now get a free fly system for 100 quid a day, and you've got these incredible camera moves. Sorry, so yeah, what we're seeing is this incredible access to cinematic production. And I think that's being reflected in day-to-day content that we're seeing, even online, not even just in short films and stuff like that. Low-end content has incredible production value these days. So yeah, that's something that's interesting.
when I started, I didn't know. I just wanted to work in film, but I didn't really know what that was because I didn't have anyone in my friends or family who did that. I didn't know that was really a kind of career, so I just wrote to companies who made the biggest films that I could think of and ran internship programs. And so I interned at a company for a month, photocopying when that was still a thing. I'm quite old, so that was still a thing. And just sort of learning and reading scripts and writing coverage. I'm not a director. I don't know how many people in the room are sort of directors, but I just never had that urge to direct, but knew that I wanted to help write or create films. So just did an internship that then eventually led to an assistant job, and just sort of grew from there really.
Okay.
I, similar to you actually, was me. I kind of started, I don't come from an artist background kind of thing. My family, like my dad was like an engineer, my mum was a social worker. And there was no blueprint to getting into the industry or anything like that. It was kind of like intern, learn everything you can, like do everything you can, and then you kind of figure it out as you go along. I think for me, getting into the industry felt like there was a way to go about it because it meant you were able to try everything and then see what you could do about it. But now, I feel like everyone's doing everything on their own. So you don't actually have to go to a production company or be an intern somewhere to actually learn how to be a good filmmaker or anything like that. And I feel like production companies are kind of dying out in that sense. So it's like, for me, I feel like the death of the production company is like imminent because everyone is now a producer or a director or whatever, and they're shooting really, really well, shooting amazing stuff, like Theo was saying. Like the kind of equipment you can get now is just insane for like really low prices. So I think us as a company, we kind of tried to future-proof ourselves and be more than a production company. So as I said, we work with brands quite often. So our thing was, instead of just being like, okay, cool, we'll give you like 6 videos and two editorial photography shoots or whatever, we'll be like, okay, we'll give you a whole activation. So we'll supply you with an events manager, someone who's head of marketing, PR, talent manager, booking agent to manage this whole tour, for example. Let's say if we're going on a tour with an artist. And then we're able to then be like, we'll do this music video, we'll also do like a photography set, we'll also run this event for you and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of just, in a way, it's handling the whole process and also having a place that is safe for creatives. So I'm very aware that like, because people are often working on their own, it can get quite lonely, and also you can get quite stir crazy being in your room all the time, editing by yourself, all that kind of stuff. So our thing is to sort of incubate the creative and be like, right, so we've got a space that you can come work at on this dope project, surround you with like really good like producers, editors, DOPs and all that kind of stuff. And then we're actually able to put across the best content for the brand. And that way it's sort of reigniting the relationship between the brand and the creative, because often that can be quite a difficult relationship due to like the creative feeling stifled, their creative processes feeling stifled and stuff. So like we kind of help that process go along by producing the project. And so our thing is future-proofing ourselves by being like, not only can we sort of manage the process and all that kind of stuff, we also manage the artist, we also manage the brand expectations, and therefore kind of cutting out all the middlemen. So everything comes from like an authentic place. So if you're doing a grime documentary, you'll get a director that comes from that world, or at least knows enough about that world that it's not just sort of peeking into it and sort of just taking bits out of it, and then it doesn't really always become authentic. So that's kind of our thing, to create a safe haven, if you will, for creatives and stuff. But that's how I feel things are going to be moving forward, for me, anyway.
Okay, I wanna throw something out to the audience because I want to talk a bit about distribution. So I want to ask the audience, what do you guys prefer? So I want to say 2 different angles of distribution. And the first one, just make some noise if you agree with it, or the second one, you guys can make some noise for which one you agree with. So I'll say the first 2 actually. So the first 2 we're talking about is Netflix and chill, or going out to the cinema. So from you guys' perspective, what do you guys do more? Do you guys Netflix and chill more? So if you make some noise, don't be shy, everyone has Netflix. So if you Netflix and chill, just please make some noise. I'm sure there's a lot more Netflix and chillers here. Don't worry, we're not going to snitch on you guys.
or do you prefer a trip to the cinema? Okay, woo. So again, that was one guy. So I think he overpowered that one. So I believe he deserves like a free cinema ticket. So anyone wants to give that to him, feel free. But the way films are distributed at the moment, I feel like it's something that's very interesting to me. Like we've seen like films like Roma, which got like a distribution across Netflix and then got distributed in cinemas after, or to like specific cinemas. How do you feel like technology has really impacted how films are distributed? Because I know you guys work a lot in the online space and digital with brands. How do you guys feel like technology has influenced that?
It's a great question. I think in many ways it's going to it's such a broad question in the sense that yes, it's changed everything. Like there's so many ways to consume content now, and especially brands are finding more and more innovative ways of getting that content to you. It's everything from we're seeing more wearable content. I'm sure we're going to start seeing circular videos for watches. I'm sure we're going to start seeing way more 3D stereoscopic stuff for wearable glasses. Things like this, even just Instagram videos being more targeted to your phones. This is a new form of distribution that's changing the way content is delivered to us. We're also seeing tons of interesting ways of playing out that content, stuff like the new Black Mirror episode with multiple choice. There's all of these ways that technology is going to keep influencing how we can deliver content to people. And I think even thinking beyond, you know, are we going to release it online cinematically? Is it going to have, you know, some kind of physical release as well? Do we give it away on USB keys in the park to generate hype about it? Like, there's so many options. What's really going to happen is I think it's going to just become more and more tailored, and I think we're going to wind up with these experiences of, like, directors being able to choose, I only ever want this film to be shown, you know, in wintertime because of the emotions that it reflects, because of, you know, just the tonal palette that I used or something like that. Okay, but then secondary to that, if everyone is kind of plugged in a sense, we're all wearing our own devices that are capable of receiving this stuff, is there a way that I could target just a specific group of friends to watch it? Because I think like that social group would do really well with this film. Could I then change the ending of that film so the narrative plays out slightly differently, and it will therefore appeal to this group of people? So I think that's how distribution is going to, it's not just going to change where we're watching it, when we're watching it. It's going to change literally the content we're watching. You and I could be targeted by the same advert and see completely different things in that advert simply because of all of this information brands now have about us online. So yeah, I think distribution is an incredible industry in the sense that it's almost gone beyond our comprehension of mediums. Like, yes, everyone loves to watch something on a big screen and have great sound around it, but Sony's just released these 3D audio speakers that mean you can have surround sound from a single speaker in your own house. You couple that with like a VR headset and it's better than any cinema room, you know? It's like you're actually living that world. So yeah, there's a lot of room for it, a lot of room for incredible things.
Okay, cool. Tom?
Well, I think ultimately you're still trying to do, however clever this technology is, and obviously Alfonso Cuarón is one of the most like lauded filmmakers of, you know, this generation, so he has a certain amount of power to dictate and, you know, what he wants to do. But I think for any director or writer, you're essentially trying to build a community around your film and to get it seen and to have that connect with an audience. And I would say it's harder now in one sense because you are competing with all of the options that you have on, you know, Netflix and Amazon, and it's why there are fewer and fewer gatekeepers that we look to help us cut through all the choice. So Vimeo staff picks being one of somewhere where you go, well, I know this is probably going to be worth my time because they program a really, you know, diverse group. I think it's a great opportunity. You just need to think about how you can approach things differently and how you can look to build a community around your film and get people to actually watch it when they could be watching a $100 million Netflix series. So I think that's looking at new platforms, people who are incentivized to help get your story kind of out, and putting on physical screenings or doing whatever you can to give people an experience so that you're not competing on level terms with Alfonso Cuarón's masterpiece that's delivered to your home that you don't need to pay for. So I think it's an incredible time, but finding online audiences that you can engage, that you can share part of your process, that you can make people feel excited about you as a new voice, and crucially developing your peer group and other people who want to cheer you on and support what you do, because filmmaking is not a solo sport. Like, it's a team sport, I feel, and that the biggest lesson I've learned over the last few years, mainly from my American friends who are so much more generous with introductions and helping each other than I think a lot of people are in the UK by nature, is partnering with other people to say it's expensive to hire a cinema to put on a screening.
Yeah.
But if 3 or 4 of you are coming together to say, look, I've done a short, I've got some people, I'm trying to get an agent, are you trying to get an agent? 50 quid, 100 quid times 4, that's enough to rent a cinema. You can't fill a cinema, but you can put 30 people in the seats. You can then say to an agent, hey, I'm doing this thing. You can show your entrepreneurial spirit, or platforms like where I work, like Vero. We have an international audience. We're looking to promote filmmakers. You can say, I've made this film. Would you be interested in showcasing this? Looking at new ways to connect. Because just sending a link to people who work in the industry, I don't think is going to cut through unless you can get them excited. But to show that kind of a bit of entrepreneurial hustle, and to find other people who want to cheer you on. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. Find people who want the same thing as you and see if you can do it together.
Yeah, just to add on to what you were saying, I think it's one of those things where, being that the industry is quite saturated, I think to create a moment for your demographic is very important. So it's like instead of just, if you create a film and then you put it onto Vimeo, it might just get lost in the ether. End of the day, you might get a Vimeo staff pick, but not very much. It might just literally get lost in the ether. But if you create a moment around what it is that you're creating, whether it's, like you said, like a screening, or to, like you said, get people excited about what you're doing, I feel like that's when people get excited about your whole movement, not just the film. So it's like, if you think about I would think about like a brand activation. So instead of, it's not just one piece of content that is going to create the hype. It's everything around. If you think about Shiro's story, for example, that had a moment around it when it was made. It wasn't just something that went up. It was like loads of people were talking about it, and then it created a buzz, like it within itself kind of thing. And I think that's where we're able to, because otherwise, okay, for example, the way we kind of consume content at the moment is just like thick and fast all the time, like consistent. And there is nothing sort of to pull you apart from other people. For example, even WhatsApp just did a deal with YouTube. So now on your WhatsApp, you can tap on a video and it will play within the WhatsApp page. So it doesn't take you to YouTube now. It will just, you can watch it in there. And that's how quickly we're taking content in that you don't even want to switch apps. You stay within the same app to watch something from another app. So that's content from somewhere. That's how much things you can get. That's how much you can get lost. So I think you're absolutely right in that creating a moment and something bigger than just that piece of content is exactly what you need. Even if it's like what was that cinema? I forgot, secret cinema.
Yeah.
Where you dress up in that. Even something like that is amazing marketing because it gets you excited about the moment. So those of you that might not know about secret cinema, essentially you go and watch like a super old film, let's say Grease Lightning, and then everyone that comes to the screening then dresses up as someone that is from that era. That's a moment for that. So imagine you did that for a new film that no one's actually seen before, or whatever. You told them about what it was. It's like creating a kind of moment around things, I feel like, is the way forward. It creates your own community. I think that's the way forward, really, to be honest.
I think we're seeing a lot of commissioners reverse engineering that process now as well. I think it's quite like, Tom, you mentioned something that was quite interesting, that if you take a show like People Just Do Nothing, for an example, on BBC, this is something that started out as an online format on YouTube. It built a very core audience of dedicated fans, and they've kept returning to the show. And I think a lot of commissioners nowadays are very interested in guaranteeing your audience by creating an online format, and you see it with 4AD, All Fours on demand services, BBC Three moving to an online platform. These are now testing grounds for new concepts, and they might not give you a large budget and they might not give you a lot of episodes to play with, but they'll let you be quite experimental with it. And if you can create that cult following online, it doesn't have to be 1 million views. It can be 50,000, 10,000. But if it has that cult following and they're coming back and you're getting high engagement, there's a lot of scope to take that into a full broadcast TX. Just because you can prove people care. I've got comments. I've got likes.
It's proof of concept. It's proof of concept. Everything you do is a proof of concept. If you have something new that you're putting out there that is like no one's ever seen it before, or it's a new way of filming, or it's a new community that no one really heard about, everything you're doing is proof of concept. Because like in the first place, none of us are like balling out of control where we can just throw money at something and it will just work. So more time you're gonna have to spend money on it or spend time on it, which is the same as money really. And then really it's like proof of concept for like a bigger dog to be like, right, I want to fund this. I want to put something into that because obviously you've got a following. And you might think it's small margins, but it's not. It's like if you on your own can get like 10,000 people to watch something on your own, then imagine what you would have with a massive beast behind you to be like, right, so we're farming this out to different countries, farming this out to different regions, demographics, all that kind of stuff. So it's like everything is like proof of concept to someone else. So like, I think the more you keep putting stuff out there and creating moments around them, I think there's no way you can lose, really.
I just want to touch on the idea of what technology has impacted on people psychologically. So I think at the moment, we've got all these emerging technologies and the internet and social media to allow people to distribute their work, but it's almost like you're competing with 100,000 different people at the same time. Even from my own personal experiences, I'll be on Instastory and I'm just tapping through. Am I really taking in the content? There's like 100 different filmmakers at the same time releasing content. How do you feel like this environment has impacted how filmmakers are trying to get their work out there and how they even...
Okay, so not the audience, more...
Even both ways. How's it impacting audiences and how is it impacting filmmakers? Are their priorities in the right place? Are they trying to make a great film? Or are they trying to get a film that gets 1 million views? How do you feel like this is impacting the landscape, even for you guys personally?
God, that's a good question. Good. I think there's a battle between making money and being true to your creative self. So it's like you can always like troll the internet looking at the videos that got the highest views and be like, right, so that's the model. That's what I got to do. But really and truly, is that something that you know is part of you, or what's the right thing to do for your message or whatever it is? So I think there's always that constant battle. So for us, like for me and Theo, most of the time is we're the dream is feature films, short films, and we're writing a few at the moment, but it's like getting to that caliber. But that does not make you any money. And like Tom can attest to it, 'cause you're a writer as well. And it's like, it doesn't really pay the bills. So then that's the constant battle. It's working with brands, doing content. It doesn't necessarily like...
fulfill you.
Right. The content doesn't necessarily fulfill you all the time because you're like, right, so it's quick stuff. You know, it's like everyone wants to sink their teeth into something, but you can't do that with commercial content. You can't really do that with music videos. You can't do that with that kind of content unless it's documentary. So I think that battle can be, as a creative, can be like almost Jekyll and Hyde sometimes. And for the audience, even more so, because you're thinking, like, as a creative, you're thinking, okay, I need to please whatever the audience wants kind of thing. I want to make sure that they can digest it, like, from here to you kind of thing. But the audience is already, it's like, if you imagine the audience starts off bored, and this is the way I see it anyway, is that the audience starts off bored because they're scrolling, like you were saying, like scrolling. It's like, how do you stand out to that person so they stop? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I think that's the trick. And if we knew it, we'd be millionaires. But like, you have to, I think there's ways to create that moment around everything that you do and sort of infiltrate what it is that they want to see in a way. But I think, for me, I think the most important thing is staying true to what it is that you believe in, because eventually if this moment is big enough or this moment is true enough or whatever, put enough time into it, then people end up gravitating towards it because it's new. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, or doing what that person's done, you're just gonna again fall into the ether. But if you actually like stick true to a movement, then people will end up gravitating towards it because it's new and it's fresh and all that kind of stuff. But it can be a bit of a mindfuck sometimes.
I'd agree. Like, integrity has got to be that key drive for anything you're putting out. But I think we're so like, there's this bombardment of content nowadays, and I think, especially when something really resonates with you, I don't know necessarily what the last thing you would have watched that really had an impact with you was, but the best thing for me personally is to then not watch anything after that. So like, let's say I've just watched an incredible, like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs on Netflix, Coen Brothers film, great film. Don't watch something until the next morning, you know? Just let it sink in, think about it, play it over in your mind. Why did you enjoy it so much? Was it the writing? Was it the way it was shot? Was it the acting? Like, and that is something that we're never given an opportunity to do in today's society. We've got, like, just from the moment I walk out of cinema to my journey home, I might have been sent 3 images, 2 funny videos to watch. I've seen a trailer for something that's coming out, and all of a sudden, that thing that was so impactful to me, and I've kind of forgotten it already. It's like waking up from a dream, and you're trying to like clutch onto those last bits of memory. It begins to fade, and I think that's something that it's really unfortunate that we don't have the opportunity anymore to just like breathe on something, to just have that moment to just think about it. So disconnecting yourself, I'd say, is incredibly important, and also, there is clear proof that this exposure to constant content and feeling like you constantly have to be switched on and talking to people, it's not good for you. It definitely isn't. So just setting aside a certain amount of time each night, whether it's like, you can even do it on your phone where you just set it so it just doesn't do any alerts after a certain period of time. Obviously, if you've got to shoot the next day, remember to turn it off. Been there. So it's just about limiting the amount your brain consumes sometimes. There's so much great stuff out there, but you might even watch it and forget you've watched it, and it just slips you by. It's the same for music and stuff like that. I feel like in the 60s, you had a song, it hit #1, you heard it playing out of every window, out of every car, you couldn't escape it. That was the sound of that summer. Now, there's so much music, it's so available, you can switch between a million genres, and it's all on your phone, in your pocket, in your ear. Then, again, the sound loses its impact. So I think limiting your access to stuff, when you find something, just appreciate it, enjoy it a little bit, and it will have so much more significance. And ultimately be better for your mind, because you're not just going to be... Exactly.
You're already like that as a creative anyway. As a creative, you're like,
Can't stop.
your mind's always going. Like everything, every moment is like a piece of inspiration or whatever, so your mind's always going. So it's like putting some breakers in there and having a moment.
I think the only thing I would add is knowing that everyone suffers from attention deficit disorder. I shouldn't use a clinical term loosely, but everyone is struggling how to use technology a bit more consciously. Is if you have taken all this time to make a film, honor that effort by doing what you can to help it cut through. That you have to explain to people. I think it's not enough to send out a tweet, or you have to, I guess, think about how you're gonna, what you can do to help that cut through, whether that's the platform that you use or how you communicate why people should care, why it matters to you, and take the time and the emotional intelligence and the empathy to think about the people that you're trying to reach, either the audience or the decision makers in the industry that you're trying to impress, and think, well, how do I present this in a way that's different to what everyone else is doing? So one thing I see as a commissioner is everyone's website looks exactly the same if they have a Squarespace website, and they go, same navigation, and it's the same thing, link called short films, you click on it, and it's just a play button and embedded video. Very rarely do people do anything more than a synopsis or talk about what influenced them or their journey as a filmmaker. Ultimately, if you want to work and have a sustainable career in film, people need to be your advocate. They need to sell what you do. And to do that, you need to make it easy for them, in my experience. And you need to say, this is what I'm trying to achieve with this. This is what excites me. Here are all the people that help make this happen. And give them the language that you want them to use about you, because ultimately we all sell people to someone else. You must check out this film. Well, what's that person's story? Well, okay. And if you can't get into the room physically, then you need to use all these wonderful tools that we have online to help people who want to help you by really explaining who you are, what motivates you, and why you hope it connects. And that's something I see people not doing that much of. And they hope that a film will speak for itself, which it may well do, but you've got to get them to click on it, to start with. So just help yourself, I would say.
Tell your story and have a very good bio. That's very important. I want to jump on to a very specific area. So the idea of the technology itself. So the techno aspect. So we've got these cameras that can shoot 4K, 8K, 10, 20K. This it's constantly growing. Like, how important are these things, and do you feel like filmmakers are using them to creatively tell their stories, or is it just sometimes, okay, let's get the best cameras? Do you is there any examples where you feel, okay, cool, this technology has been used in a way which is like really empowered the story, or it's just a case of, it's just another drone shot, it's just another, I don't know? gimbal. So, like, talk to me about, even from your own experiences. You're a filmmaker. Do you sometimes get lost in the sauce? Like, I want all this fancy kit.
I think it depends what your goal is. I think if you're doing travel documentary, for example, or you're doing travel videos or whatever, and it's like, or you're doing even like nature videos or whatever, then you might be like, I need the best every time, because you need to see intricate details of the plants, the animals, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it depends on what your purpose is. It's like, for me personally, I'd rather shoot on film for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But that's not. It's not that. I couldn't afford that. And no, I couldn't go to every client and be like, right, I want to shoot on film for all of this. It takes time and it's expensive. But I feel like there's nothing wrong with, just in case, future-proofing yourself. Not necessarily putting out there that I shoot everything on 8K, but just being like, well, if it does come up and a client does say, oh yeah, I want to shoot on 8K, then I'll be like, all right, yeah, I can do that. Just so you know that you can. But no, I think it's, as a decision to make it for like a narrative piece that's actually quite personal, it wouldn't really make sense. But to know how to do it, I think you should.
Useful.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think there's too much of a step between, if you know how to shoot 4K or even 6K, I don't think it's too much of a step to learn how to do that for 8K on a red camera or whatever. So I think it's good to know about it. But I think for myself, doesn't really play a big part in terms of being able to shoot on the. I like to shoot on the best cameras, but it doesn't need to be the highest resolution that you can actually find. I do think people do get lost in the sauce sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that comes with people just wanting to learn all the time as well. It's like we come from a YouTube generation where we've learned everything online. I've learned everything pretty much online, if not as interning. So it's like, coming from that world, it's like you always want to learn about the new thing. But I think it's just how you use it. It shouldn't be a gimmick. It should actually add something to your production, not just be a thing where I did it, you know. But yeah, I think just be careful how you use it, and it should be fine.
I'm not a director like these guys, but I would say people can get obsessed about technology, and we can almost get desensitized to really quality images, a bit like photography you see online that it used to be that you had to have an exceptional talent to be able to deliver really impressive visuals, and it's one of the wonderful things of technology that playing field has been leveled, and technology can only go so far, but for me, the things that I'm looking for when I watch films are ability to control a story. Stories exist to develop empathy and to connect us emotionally to experiences beyond our own, so it's more like, how in control are you of what you're trying to achieve? Are you moving me? Can you get a good performance out of actors? Have you got a good script? Like, in the round, have you held my attention for however long you've asked for it, and have you enriched my life somehow with a story? And I don't mind, personally speaking, whether someone shot it on an iPhone or Red, because ultimately you are demonstrating your craft as a filmmaker. So I would say you can get a bit obsessed about that, and a lot of people are desensitized or no longer impressed by a beautiful frame. Anyway, that's my view.
I think there's two sides to it. From my perspective, anyway, we're living in an era where aesthetic is incredibly important, and it influences even the way that people will deal with you. If you're having a day where you look rough, your interactions are going to be worse with people. If you're looking great, you're probably going to get a free ice cream at the shop or something. You know,
I've never got a free ice cream from the shop, so I'm
you're not
feeling a
looking
bit
good
hurt.
enough, man. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's an incredibly important thing in today's society, and we're told that image is such an important thing. And yes, it is, and it is important to stay up with these new technologies. And especially in like music promos and stuff like that, we see these gimmicks being used, which are incredible, like the Kendrick Lamar videos with the motion control rigs, where he's using a robot arm to create multiple copies of himself, stuff like that. Travis Scott used the same technology to, I think he made the world go upside down.
He did.
Great, like really, like you'd expect to see it in Inception or something. It's like a really, really cool shot. And yes, stuff like that is incredibly important to be aware of, because ultimately, as a director, it's not so much about understanding the technology. There's always going to be an informed opinion. You can ask for that. It's more just about going, I've had this idea where it's like he's underwater, but he's walking down Compton. All right, sick. That's crazy. How do we do that? We're going to need... And then someone can tell you this. So it's just being aware of what is possible and again, is it possible with the money I have? Which is probably a more important question. I think so. Everything's achievable, but yeah, we're not going to fly to the moon on that 10K budget today, guys. The other side of it is, I guess, so yes, you have to be aware of it, but it's not necessarily, these are gimmicks. Like I said, it's not going to, ultimately, it's not going to make you a better or worse filmmaker being aware of it. It's just going to increase the options of what you can include in your films. So you've got, you know, these are tools.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, like, I can give one person a hammer and they can produce a broken piece of wood, and I can give one person a hammer and they can build me St. Paul's Cathedral. Ultimately, it's how you use that tool. You're both given a camera, you both understand that it's shutter speed, frame rate, f-stops, like these are things I need to look at. But what you go out and create with that tool, they're both exactly the same thing. One person could create a masterpiece, one person could create something I wouldn't want to show my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's just about how you use that tool to create your purpose. So yes, it's very important to be aware of how things are changing, where they're going, what new things are being introduced. Is it going to make you a good filmmaker? Definitely not. Yeah.
Okay. I want to touch on the idea of how you actually store your work and where it lives. So the idea of like archiving. You guys have like worked on many different projects. You worked on projects like Channel 4, major platforms, and where does that live after? And also from your perspective, Tom, you've got the platform Vero. So in terms of people hosting their work on online portfolios, why is that important today, and how can they actually use work that they've made in the past and monetize it for their futures? So I just want to throw that out to you guys as well and give your different perspectives.
Sure. So from, you know, I think with Vero, which is this social network, which unlike Instagram, which just allows you to put up video and image, but very short ones, so you have to use multiple tools. You might have a website, you might have stuff on Vimeo, you might have stuff on YouTube, but some of those things you have to have a very specific purpose. Like, you don't go to Vimeo unless you want to watch a short film. Like, there has to be intent, or YouTube, or even to navigate someone's website. So part of what we're trying to do with Vero is provide a platform for creatives and people interested in the creative arts to be able to update their friends, but also to have a place where they can upload full-length video, but they can also share the books, the films, the music, the places that inspire you. So we're hoping that this is we're finding it's a powerful tool for creatives to really show who they are beyond just the work they produce. What are your thoughts about the films that you're watching at the cinema? What music are you listening to? And then having a one-stop shop where you can share that, but you can also put your archive of work up there, and you can find people to collaborate, and you can get feedback on your work from quite a positive community, and a place for it to live without you having to constantly update your website. But that's really what we're trying to provide creatives with, a place, I guess, where they can develop a supportive community, find collaborators, and a place to communicate with more depth and more realness, because YouTube is great for reaching the world, but I don't think there's really a community there. Vimeo is a wonderful showcase for high-quality video, but there's not a really engaged community there. Instagram, you can put up 1-minute videos, but perhaps that's not where you are really showcasing, what you are. So that's what we're trying to offer creatives and a platform to get discovered.
Storage is always that end of the job where you go, oh, I've perfectly planned out this shoot, and there's nothing that can go wrong, and my talent's been briefed, and who brought the hard drive? It happens. It's that thing that no one wants to think about, but is actually incredibly, incredibly crucial. And I've kind of worked in a lot of ends of the industry, from working in post houses and spending my days backing stuff up to LTO tape. That is still a thing. Hard drives fail. People have to put stuff on physical tape still. If you want to hold on to all 24 episodes of The Great British Bake Off for the next 15 years, that's going on an LTO tape, and it's going to take a week and a half to do it. So yes, it is something you always have to think about, but it's often that thing that you don't really want to as well. Ultimately, I guess I'm going to talk a little bit, because before I became a director, I worked in post-production, specifically like motion graphics and editing. And when you start off doing motion graphics, you're building everything wrong. I can't tell you how true that is. You've used 1,000,001 keyframes to produce a scene, and it's mental. It took you 4 days to animate it, and it's just going to not render right. But you go back to it in 3-4 years' time when you've got a better understanding of it, and you can look at that and you go like, wow, what I was trying to do there was great. The concept behind it was incredible. What the practice was, no, all right, we'll start again. I can redo this. Da, 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 da. But if you don't keep that early project file, which at the time when you were 17 years old playing around on your first ever computer felt like it would never go anywhere, and then 10 years later you're digging through it in desperate need of some inspiration for this massive client job you've got, and all of a sudden the answer is in this weirdly built little experimental thing you did at 3 a.m. That's ultimately why storage is so important. If you don't keep stuff, if you don't categorize it, you've lost a little part of that creative part of who you are. And actually, we were having a great conversation earlier about going through this 10-year challenge of like comparing your work, not even just pictures, but comparing like what you were doing 10 years ago. And there's always going to be something in it you can pull out. So storage is incredibly important. Organize, store, back it up, protect it, go back to it, feel embarrassed, and then do something good with it later on.
I love that. I'm going to start saving my files in proper file names now because mine are crazy at the moment. But yeah, go for it, Ntando. You've got any...
I think just to pretty much mirror what Theo's saying, I think it's like holding on to... Okay, let's talk about monetary. If you're a young filmmaker and we're doing all this stuff, shooting all these things, whatever, the stuff that you're shooting about, believe it or not, a few years down the line is actually gold, because bigger companies don't keep that stuff, nor do they actually shoot it themselves. So if you think about youth culture as an entity, it's like if you go to, I don't know, your local, let's say there was a club called Visions, right? It's closed down now. Right? People, okay, some people know
It's
it.
a real,
Okay.
it's a real place. It's a real place.
Yeah. It's a club called Visions, pretty famous place now, but it's closed down now, right? Anyone that's got footage on there on a half-decent camera, a DSLR, you're going to make money. End of the day, if you've got archive footage of stuff that's in there when Drake was in there, Metro Boomin was in there, Skepta was in there, you can make money off that if your data is actually safe. So if you take that back and put it on a system that can keep it safe for long periods of time, 10 years from now, like those clips are gold to anyone. That's archive footage for documentaries, archive footage for like big companies. Channel 4, BBC would love to have that footage for a documentary about Drake or a documentary about the new artist at that point, Lil Uzi or whoever it was that was around at that point. So, and obviously I'm speaking about something that is quite niche, but that goes for all other industries as well. It's not just like, it could be a rock place that you went to, or it could be a restaurant that you were in with this person. It's all youth culture stuff. So if you guys you left the club, heading home, drunk, smashed, and you guys were like, what, I don't know, like 20, 21, that's still archive footage that people can use that is actually real. So it's not something they have to create again. So it might be shot on a camera that's not necessarily the top camera to use, but that's archive footage that is perfect for a documentary. So holding on to that footage and taking care of it, making sure it's all right, and then like Theo was saying, going back to that, you could sell that on, move it on, or use it in another project later on for a documentary or whatever it is. Like the rush that you get, that it's like, okay, shooting the documentaries, like that part's easy and the most fun. It's like you get to do all your research, meet up with like these amazing people that tell their story, all that kind of stuff. The hard part is getting the archive. The hard part is like, where are we gonna tell this story about something that happened in 1927 that did this and did that, and that is the hardest part. And then you got to tap all of these really sort of like in the corner companies that actually hold this data. Do you know what I mean? So it's like holding data is like, it can help you down the line for any other project, or someone else can be like, you know what, has anyone got this kind of footage from that place? And you're like, actually, got some stuff in the back. I'll give you an example, Risky Roads. Risky Roads, like literally, Risky Roads is the guy for capturing the whole grime scene from when it started, from like day dot. He could fill this whole floor here with like tapes, CDs, everything. The guy's room is like a museum of grime. It's insane. And him holding on to that information, now everyone will go to him being like, Risky's the one that's got everything. He's got Wiley's first one. He's got like Dizzy Rascal's first clash. He's got everything. He's got Gets' one with Bashi. The one that went off on like Stormzy's album. That kind of stuff is like
Ask Carlos.
Right, exactly. That stuff is gold now. So if you hold on to that stuff, when you go to an event and you film something, you got to keep it safe because you never know who's going to want it down the line. You never know what scene, even though it might be a small scene now, you don't know what scene's going to expand into something else later on, and then they might need the footage of those people that did that one thing way back in the day. So I think just look after your footage, basically.
Okay, amazing. Now I'm going to throw it out to the audience for any questions. So if anyone's got any questions, just raise your hand. You guys paid for tickets, so make sure you use that resource and ask questions. So do I see someone? I feel like I'm hoping to see someone because I can't see anyone right now. Is there anyone with a question? Is the mic working? Wait, reply, is the mic working? Is it? Hello, everyone? There we go, amazing. I pressured this guy, but I appreciate you so much.
Sorry, say it again? Oh, this mic there.
The power of technology, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Theo was it, who talked about sort of practical aspects and the accessibility of things like cameras and other equipment for making films. But I was just wondering, is there sort of, like, coming from a background where I don't really know much about the practical aspect, do you perhaps know of any platforms or sort of any forums where sort of specific information about certain cameras or certain other equipment can be sort of shared and information can be given?
I'm just trying to think, because I started off in this industry when I was like, I think I turned 17 working at a production company as an unpaid intern. And I can't express to you just how little I knew. I think I was sat in the interview with my would-be boss, and he goes, "Do you know what we do?" And I was like, "You're like the guys who make the content that I watch, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Cool." And that's where the conversation ended. So, yeah, I was starting from a real absolute zero position. And when you first come into this industry, it's like people are speaking a foreign language to you. You're hearing all of these technical terms for stuff, and it's meaningless. In some ways, it's almost worse than gibberish. And it's so inclusive because it's like this clique of people who are speaking their own language about this topic of, like, you know, it's all quite conceptual anyway, and then you're throwing in this new technical language on top of it. Yeah, it's really hard to kind of penetrate that. So the best thing you can possibly do is just have an inquisitive mind. If you want to learn about a new type of camera or something like that, probably the best thing you can do is listen to the conversation, and I wouldn't even interrupt it. You'll hear someone say like 3 words and you've got no idea what they mean. So what I always used to do as this like quiet 17-year-old who didn't used to talk to anyone was I'd hear this conversation going on and I'd go, "A motion control rig? Okay, so I might have even heard it wrong. I might have even heard fig. I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to Google as close to what I thought they said as possible."
Fig. Yeah.
And, all right, it's not a fig tree, it's not this, it's all right, cool, rig, right, that must be what it is, okay. Now you're just in the process of learning. So I could tell you to go on CVP and they've got every camera ever built on there with an incredible technical breakdown. Or what you could do is you could hear Ntando mention shooting 8K Reds, and you Google Red 8K. Let's go onto the Red camera page. Let's go onto all of these third parties. YouTube's going to have a bunch of guys with hands-on reviews, and just literally just learn as much as you can around that subject. And the best advice I can possibly give you is just delve down those rabbit holes. Anytime something catches your interest, just explore it.
The videos.
It might take you absolutely nowhere. It might just be you hit this dead end and you go like, "Well, I'm definitely never going to do that as a career. That's terrible." Yeah. But at least now you know that you're never going to want to do that. Yeah. So just everything that even slightly catches your interest, or a word you want to learn, or I guess it's the same for anything in life. Just like if it interests you, research it, try and find out stuff about it, have conversations about it, and ultimately, at some point, someone will say you're an informed opinion, and you'll really guess where you've gone wrong.
It's like a have you know Vimeo staff picks? Yeah. No, for sure. But you know of it. Literally, I used to do. It's like I used to do this thing which used to make me sick. It's literally watching like video after video from Vimeo staff picks, I don't do it anymore because it literally makes me want to quit the industry because like the work is dope and it's like it just looks really cool and I'm like, where do I get the money for this? Where do I get this for that? Where do I get this for this? But what I did end up doing after a while, instead of like just like making myself ill, I would end up actually being like, what can I take from this? And it's usually looking at bios, looking at information underneath the videos, and sometimes when the directors are really nice, they'll put what they used kit-wise. So when you see a video that you actually like, then you'll be like, right, so what kit did they use? What crew did they use? How did they do this? How did they do that? And it's not like a trade secret or nothing. It's literally just read the information they're giving to you. And once you read that and you see, you know what, okay, they used an Alexa Mini, they used Cooke Panchro lenses, they used like a wireless follow focus for this, they used these kind of lights, all that kind of stuff, then you can start to research into those things. And not only that, but you know what kind of images those pieces of equipment can create. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's all well and good being like, okay, cool, a Red does this and a Arri does that and this does that. But if you don't know what they're capable of, then it's kind of useless because then you won't know where to put what. But looking at a video and being like, right, so I want to create this kind of look. Look, you find a video and be like, I want to create this kind of look. And if you can somehow find out what they use to actually create that, then you know what to do next. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'd say. That's probably my bit of advice for that.
I think the only advice I would give is there are plenty of opportunities to film at very low risk where someone can help you, that you're probably not going to go to a BAFTA-winning cinematographer and say, can I shadow you on your BBC One drama that's £2 million an episode, but there are places to learn where people are willing to learn or give you an opportunity because the risk to them of you not delivering is not that high for them. So this may be terrible advice because I'm not a filmmaker, but I have experimented with filming before. People need to film conferences, behind the scenes on commercials, things where there are, I guess, peripheral jobs around things where you can learn, you can experiment, you can get stuff wrong, and if you are working for, you can ask questions because I would approach people who are just, you know, one page ahead of you in the journey and not go to the, you know, the top and ask people, but find people who are steadily working, or the camera assistant who was you 6 months ago and say, well, look, could I tag along on a shoot and shoot, you know, a behind the scenes package, and maybe you smash it out of the park and it's great and they can use it, but if you don't, it's not really a risk for them. And I think that's a mistake I see people making as well, where they go to, how do I get to be you, where you're 25 years up, and in fact go to the person who's, you know, a year above you and say, could I pick your brains, and could you be my mentor, could I tag along, and make it easy for people to say yes, is what I would suggest.
It just shows the power of asking questions. So if anyone's got any other questions, I'm just gonna there we go. Oh, is there 2 questions? So one person just shout. Whoever got a mic. Has someone got a mic? Okay, so whoever just shout. I can't. It's quite dark. So.
Did your school report indicate your current profession?
Say it one more time.
Did your school report indicate your current profession?
My school report.
What did you guys study? Like, what did you guys did you go to university? What did you study in college? Is there a big contrast?
Me and Theo have very somewhat similar stories.
No, different.
Oh, wow.
Really?
No, I didn't do uni. I'm a college
I dropped
dropout.
out.
There we go.
Yeah, that's why we're similar. So
Don't listen to us.
Theo actually, so me and Theo met we've been working together for like, 8 years? So we actually met as interns at a production company called Lemonade Money. And he was there before I was. And when I got there, he was the guy. So as you remember, you're just talking about go to the guy that was just above you, like that just knows. Do you know? That was my Theo. That was Theo for me, because he was there about a year before I got there. So then he was the guy that I was like, right, so I need to talk to you because you somehow know what the fuck is going on. I don't know what's going on. So for me, it was like I kind of, in terms of school. So to answer your question, in terms of school, I kind of like went to college. But then I went to uni and it didn't do as much for me as I thought it would. So like, I actually started in construction management, and then one summer did all this photography stuff with my cousin and fell in love with it. Taught myself all this stuff over the summer holidays. I was like, oh my gosh, went on YouTube, went on this, learned all this stuff, shot some stuff. And then I changed my course when I went back to uni. By the time I got back to uni, they didn't have enough to teach me. So I was like, I already know this, I already know that, I already know this. So then I ended up applying for internships because it was a sandwich course. So I ended up applying for internships, and then that's how I met Theo at Lemonade Money, and I dropped out. I left because I was like, well, this is the job that I would want if I finished uni. So it made sense for me. But uni was a important experience for me to understand what it is I wanted to do, because I was on my own, like, you know, paying rent, paying bills, all this stuff, and then you learn all this stuff as you go. So it was like, for me, in terms of actually speaking about a report itself, so like knowing that when I went to class, the teacher being like, well, or the tutor telling me, actually, you kind of know this already. That was an inclination for me to be like, well, I'm on the right track. Am I making sense? So it's like, for me, it was like I said, I don't come from a art background, like in terms of my family. So my thing was was putting in some work, and the teacher being like, well, you already know this, or this is like, or using your work as an example. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I need to actually figure out a way to get paid from this stuff. So then for me, I was like, let me drop out and work for this amazing production company, which is what I would want to work for. And then it kind of developed from there, kind of thing. Theo's story is it's a bit similar, not the same.
I'm almost reluctant to answer this question, just because everyone's journey is so different. It's like what works for one person is definitely not going to work for another, and ultimately, I could give you advice and tell you to drop out of college and just go for it and get as much experience as you can. Experience is worth 10 times what any kind of credit, what any kind of qualification is, and then your life goes terribly badly and you want to sue me for it. And everyone's journey's different. I'm just going to start with that. Okay, so when I think for the longest amount of time growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. And I think really that came from not actually knowing what it is that we do. I don't think I really maybe I just wasn't that smart a kid, but I don't think I ever watched a film and went, how do they make that?
Yeah.
I just went, that's a good film. I really liked that. Yeah. That was really enjoyable. I didn't think about, how did they shoot it? Was there a DOP involved? What are these different chains of command that go into the whole process? It was just like, oh, that's fun. I like Finding Nemo. So, yeah, I guess it's like, I dropped out of college. I was doing economics, biology, sociology, psychology. There was another one in there as well, probably. A lot of ologies. None of them, you'll notice, were creative fields. I didn't even do art. I didn't do anything like that. I dropped out of college due to stuff that was happening in my life, and kind of stumbled my way into this unpaid internship. And I think, if anything, the thing that really kept me going was the people. Ntando turning up a year later, all of this stuff. It was just a really incredible group of people who were so inspiring to be around. I think even if you'd have asked me when I was about 20, I still would have just been like, I know that I want to work with these people, but I don't know what regard that's in, because even now I had my first ever executive producer credit the other day, and I was like, wow, that's a really enjoyable thing to do. If you'd have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, no, I'd never want to be an executive producer. You're everyone's worst enemy. Actually, that's quite fun now. So maybe in 20 years' time, that's all I'll ever do, and I never will have directed another thing. But that's, it's constantly changing, and your goalposts are constantly shifting. So that's why I'm reluctant to answer the question. It's really, really difficult. Should you stay in higher education? If the answer is yes, I'd say it's for reasons that you wouldn't suspect. If you're going to stay in higher education, I think it's because of the experiences you'll have there, the people you'll miss there. Because ultimately, looking back at it, that's the thing that I regret most about not going to university, was not having that opportunity to be independent with my peers, out of town, away from the home family and stuff like that. I think that's an incredibly important thing for just any human being to develop as an individual. And also, the more life experience you have, the better a filmmaker you are, the more you can bring to your work. So if you can go out there and experience as much life as possible before actually becoming a filmmaker, you're starting 10 steps ahead of everyone else. You see that with people who've gone out there and had these incredible struggles and then take that and implement it in their art, and you're like, wow, that's really good. Yeah, of course it is, because they've brought all of this emotion with it. They're not just creating from nothing. So So yeah, I think it's incredibly important to go out there and experience the world and just meet as many different people as you can, because that's ultimately what's going to make you good at what you do, is just having this wide informed opinion. So I guess evaluate who you are. The most important thing to do is work out how you work, how you learn, how you know how to absorb information. Once you're capable of just going out there and just going like, I'm going to learn this entirely new thing by myself, then maybe you don't need education. If you're not so good with people skills, something like that, maybe education's a really good thing. So judge who you are as an individual and then just try and make a choice off of that. But ultimately, there's no wrong answer either, you know? Cool.
I'm going to close on Tom if you want to just share what your...
Sure, I just knew that I wanted to work with words in some form. That's all my school report said, but I wanted to be a journalist and then sort of went I've done many, many different things, but words have always formed a part of it, either writing or commissioning people to write or helping develop other people's sort of content. But I would just share that of unless you have to be a director or you're going to die. It's also staying open to how you evolve. I just knew that I wanted to work in film and content and building communities around that, but I never thought I would be helping run a tech platform. That was a million miles away from where I thought I would be, but there are lots of common themes of being around inspiring people who are trying to build something, helping people find their voice and connect that with an audience. So I think it's perhaps not to put so much pressure on you that I must be a writer-director, and more think actually if I can build a sustainable career in this industry, then you're already doing really well and around people that you like and you want to help see succeed. And that takes a lot of pressure off, and the bullseye gets a lot bigger unless you're only going to be happy if you do one thing. That's an awful lot of pressure to put yourself on, I would say.
All right then. Amazing, guys. Well, this was our amazing panel. So could I have a massive round of applause, please, for them, guys? And we're going to move on to the next segment. So, guys, thank you very much. They might be hanging around after, so feel free to grab them after. And then you guys can take a seat in the audience. I feel like I almost just kicked you off stage, just like, yeah, just get off the panel, guys. But now, give them a massive round of applause while they... Come on, guys. So, next up, it wouldn't be a feature film lab if we didn't watch a film. So, we've got an amazing Isaac Icy Tomaszek, who's going to be showcasing his film. So, we're just going to bring him on stage to introduce his film before you guys watch it. And no spoilers. No spoilers. So, guys, round of applause for Isaac as he comes on stage. Yeah, go for it. So, yeah, just give us a brief introduction to your film before we play it, and then we'll ask you a few questions after.
All right, cool. The film is like a short horror film. It was shot at a film festival called Kukaloris Film Festival. Alana. It's just there. It's Kukaloris Film Festival, which I would suggest everyone enters and submits, because it's a non-competitive film festival in North Carolina that pays quite a lot of a contribution towards your airfare out there, and they house you, they put you up, and you're just surrounded by a wicked community of filmmakers. So, yeah, we basically went out there and shot a sequel to the film that had been selected to be shown at this film festival. So our film got into the film festival, and we decided to then shoot a sequel to that film at the film festival, which was about us going to see our film at the film festival, and the stuff that happens in that film happens to us while we're at the film festival.
Okay, amazing. So we're going to do the fun part now and have a watch of the film. So, yeah, get comfy and the lights just start to dim.